Hey guys, Jackie. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I make fashion, beauty, and travel related content, so if you want to stay a while, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and put the bell on for notifications. I do post every Sunday. I haven't done a sewing video in so long, so I'm super excited to show you guys what I made today. Aren't these two tops so cute? One of them is definitely more beginner friendly, while the other one is a little bit more on like the intermediate side. But I'm gonna show you guys step by step how I make these two tops from one of my dresses. I was cleaning my closet the other day and I saw this dress that I don't really reach for anymore. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just a little bit tight around the waist and hip area. I did gain a little bit of weight, so it doesn't fit me exactly how I want to anymore. Instead of getting rid of it, I thought about upcycling it, and that's how I made these two tops today. So the first top here is definitely beginner friendly because it is essentially just cut and sew. The first thing you want to do is grab a tank top or any top that fits you lengthwise. I place a tank top directly over the shirt, making sure the straps are exactly the same length, and then I gave about an inch seam allowance because I do want the top to be slightly longer. Giving more seam allowance also gives you room to fix any errors, so I highly recommend doing that if you're new to sewing. Make sure you're marking where you want to cut, and then get a good pair of fabric scissors, you guys. I can't stress that enough because satin is super silky. It tends to move under scissors, so you need really sharp scissors to get you that clean cut. And then after that, I pin the fabric together so it doesn't move around when I roll the hem, and I just brought it to my sewing machine. A single simple straight stitch all across the hem, and then we're done. This one is super easy, probably took me about like 10 minutes. When first working with satin, I highly recommend ironing out your hem. This makes it a lot easier to sew because you don't want your hem to unroll as you're sewing it. But if you're lazy like me, you could definitely try rolling it as you go. For me, I only folded it once, so it was quite easy to sew the hem. But to make it a lot more cleaner, I do recommend rolling it twice. So in that case, I do highly recommend ironing it down. Now, this second top was actually like a little pain in my ass because you need to cut two of every piece pretty much. I actually modified it a pattern that I found online, so I'll post the original pattern down below, but this one definitely has a lot more steps, so bear with me. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have enough fabric for whatever you're making. Obviously because my dress was a like midi maxi, I did have a lot more fabric to work with, so I decided to go with this pattern. I thought a halter top would be super cute. It's coming back in style and it's definitely a lot more comfortable to wear in the summertime, so I thought this would be the perfect DIY option. With this pattern, I knew I wanted to change some things. I wanted the front length to be a little longer, and then I decided because my satin is not that stretchy, I don't think I could get it over my head if it was a tight crop top, so I decided to cut open the back and have like a tie open back moment. I also wanted to change the tie straps around the neck area. I don't want that like thick strap, so I opted it out for like a string tie instead, which means that our front pieces up here would have to be a little more tapered versus the wider like 2-inch strap that she had on her pattern. And if you're a visual learner like I am, I definitely recommend drawing things out. Like, I prefer to see the vision in paper before I go make any adjustments or continue with the pattern. Then I went to print out the existing pattern. I cut everything out and then I taped every piece together. Now, the front part, I am going to elongate it by 3 inches, so I did take another piece, the back tie piece, and I pretty much cut it down to about 3-inch length, and I just attached it to the original bodice piece. Now, next part is pretty simple. Just lay your pattern flat against your fabric, and I use paperweights because satin does shift. I highly recommend having either pins or clamps on hand. Now, here's the tricky part. You really want to make sure which parts you want to double line, and for those double line pieces, you want to cut 2 of. So for the breast cup, we do want to double line, so essentially we need 4 of those pieces, 2 for the left and 2 for the right. And then for the bodice, it does say to cut on the fold, so I didn't fold it. I pretty much laid out my fabric in full, and I just multiplied the length by 2, which is 9.5 times 2 is 19. So I measured and cut out a whole length of 19 inches, and that's going to be our bodice piece. Now for the strap, I am making it out of string instead of that thick strap, so I pretty much cut out 1 piece of that and I cut it into 4s along the length. We're gonna start sewing these straps first. It's probably the easiest. Fold it right sides together and then do a straight stitch all the way down. I made these straps about roughly 1/4 to 1/2 inch wide, and then after your straight stitch you want to zigzag stitch the raw edge because we're going to be pulling on the strings often. You don't want the fabric to unravel, so definitely always overlock the raw edge side with like a zigzag stitch. It adds double security so you know your fabric is less likely to tear when you pull at the seam. Now that we are finished sewing the strap, we're going to take a safety pin and we're gonna pin one side of the fabric and then slowly push it through the tunnel. By the time you push the safety pin all the way through the channel, you would have successfully turned your straps right side out. Now moving into the cups, you also want the fabric to be facing right sides together. For the cups, we're going to sew the longer edges first, leaving about 1 to 2 inch space from the top and the bottom of the breast cup. Here I'm also sewing it with a straight stitch, and then I'm overlocking the raw edge with a zigzag. As we're sewing the longer edges, make sure you're tapering at the top of the length because you want to make an opening to match the tiny straps that we just made. Now that both sides are sewed, we are going to thread through one of the strings through the top, and then we're going to sew a straight stitch across that to secure the strap. After we're done, we're going to flip the breast cup inside out. Now you have perfect string ties that are attached to the breast. Now for ruching, make sure you're doing a single stitch with no back stitching, so it's just going to be one long string through the fabric. Now, to make the actual ruching, we are going to either pull on the top seam or the bottom seam. You're gonna see that it starts ruffling. Adjust where you want the ruffles to be. After that is done, leave it alone and we're gonna work on the bodice piece. For the bodice piece, we do have two pieces. One's going in the front and one's going in the back. So for the front piece, we are only gonna roll hem one side of the longer length. Now for the back piece, we do need to roll hem at the top and bottom. For the hem, I pretty much rolled a 1/4 inch twice and I ironed it down. Now we're going to attach the breast cups to the front bodice. I measured the center point and then roughly about 1 inch on both sides of the center point, and that's where we're going to begin our breast cups. I pretty much laid everything down and I pinned it, and then we went to straight stitch it all across, giving it about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now if I were to change one thing, probably wouldn't give such a wide gap in the middle because my chest isn't as prominent. So on me, it looks a little bit weird, but if you do have a larger chest, this should work perfectly fine. Now that that is done, we are going to attach the front bodice to the back bodice by sewing the sides together. I pinned the right sides together and then did a straight stitch and then overlocked the raw hem with a zigzag. Now this is my first time ever trying it on. I have not put this on my body before this part, so I would have probably skipped a lot more steps. I should have just left it like this and then just cut open the back and made a tie. Call it a day would have been way easier, but because I'm a little stupid, I went the long way around. So what I did here is I pretty much cut off the excess fabric by completely lining it against the breast cups. I pretty much left like 1 inch space, which made it a lot smaller. So after re-sewing the seams and overlocking it, we are going to move into opening the back bodice. I pretty much found the center point and then I cut about 1.5 inches away on both sides. So essentially I cut out about 3 inches of fabric, and then we're going to thread the last 2 strings that we made into the top rolled hem part. This part is a little difficult, I'm not gonna lie, because of the hem that we had ironed down. It's kind of hard to unfold it and then stuff the string in there and refold it. Now we're going to completely hem the top seam with a shingle stitch. Now we could stop here and have the tie around your neck if you want to, but I kind of want to elevate it a little bit. So I'm gonna mark the straps where I want it to be, like the length of it, and then I'm gonna tie it to the end right here of the back side. I marked here where I wanted it to be, my shoulder length, and then I am going to tie a pretty big knot. We're gonna leave it open like that. And then we're gonna thread through the side straps. So it's gonna go right in like that. And then you're going to tighten the loop right on the edge right there. This is what we have so far. You have a knot. This string is from the necktie, and it's a sliding knot, so you could pretty much extend the back side if you want a more open back, or if your chest is more prominent, you could open this up and then you have a much larger surface area to work with. And then I'm just gonna leave it as tightly as possible. I'm putting it on for a second time and it does look like how I envisioned it, but I figured I would add a little bit more pizzazz. I had this leftover blue lace that I thought would be super cute to attach at the bottom. I pinned a lace on the inside and then I did a straight stitch. One thing I would have changed if I were to remake this top is to probably keep the front bodice in one piece. And I could probably do without the back piece because I am making a tie back. With the one that I made, I feel like this panel right here kind of flops open a little bit because it's not really attached to the front. Like, I feel like if this whole bodice piece was one continuous piece, it would have tied a lot cuter in the back. Now, because the top is meant for larger breasts and I don't have the largest of breasts, I will be listing it on my Mercari and Depop, so if you're interested, I'll leave a link to them down below. That's it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to stay for a while, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.